Hey guys, and welcome to my playlist Live on the Line. So these songs actually come from my YouTube channel and they're all performed live in my little studio. Now, these aren't just any songs, these songs all hold a specific meaning to me. And I just wanted to talk you through the actual process of getting these recorded and uploaded and videoed and filmed and everything so that you guys can see and listen to them now. So the process for choosing these songs is actually quite a long one, because not only do I just have to pick songs that I love and I truly resonate with, I also take inspiration from other people as well. So these song lists are compiled whether I'm at work or I'm doing an online show, or if I'm just like in bed listening to like one of my favorite playlists and I'm like, oh, I'd love to do my own version of that. So how I go about putting my own little spin on things is that I tutor up the hill to my piano player's house. He doesn't live too far away from me, so it's really handy. We go in, we have cups of coffee, we tutor down to his studio, and I take out the list of lots of songs, and we sit down and we arrange pretty much all of them, and some translate and some just don't. So I pick my favorites, the ones that work, the ones that sound the best, and the ones that, yes, I resonate with on a human level. So once I've established this list, I zone in track by track, and some nights I get one song done, and some nights I get multiple songs done. It all really depends on the production level of things, because some songs are just piano and vocal, whereas others require a little bit more intricacy and just production. So we add things like whirlies, pads, and Rhodes just to spice things up a little bit. It all really depends, but there are no orchestras or anything like that because, bless, humble indie budgets. But they all have a sound. And I didn't really realise how creepy that sound was until I listened to them back to back, which I do pinpoint now when I listen back to them, as it must be to do with the fact that we record these so late at night and it's all very chill and it is a little bit creepy. We're in a shed, we've got candles going, it's all very moody. I think that's probably why my inner horror movie comes out when I record these down. But I'm not complaining. I love how they sound and I love that they have their own little identities. So the next step in this process is the learning part. Now, sometimes I have a week for it, but most of the time I have less than 24 hours. So I stumble out of there at silly o'clock in the morning, armed with my files. The next day I get up, I stick them on my Bluetooth speaker, I practice away. I go into the studio in the afternoon, I set up the shot, and sometimes I've had to have the lyrics away from the screen because I just didn't have enough time to learn them. But a lot of the times I do know the songs pretty darn well before I go in, and I do know all the lyrics. But yeah, that's a little sneaky secret there that sometimes if you see me looking off camera, I might be tracking the lyrics of a song. So if you've seen any of my videos, you'll know that they're all done in one take and one shot only, which means that it's a live performance, which complicates the next part of the process, the actual recording part, because I have to get it right in one go, and it can be frustrating because you might have got verse 2 really good in take 1, but the performance was way better in take 3. So I have to try and go with my gut and go with the one that's got the magic in it. I might have said something wrong or it might not be the best take, but for me it's all about the performance and the one that I just feel portrays my emotions with that song itself. So speaking of songs, I want to walk you through each one of my top 5 favourites and explain a little bit behind why I chose it and my thought processes for it. So let's get into it. And first up on that list is Jolene. Now, as a kid, my parents absolutely adored country music, which meant so did I. And back in those days, you didn't have CD players in your car, you actually had cassette players. Now, my parents had a massive collection of country music cassettes, which I absolutely adored as a kid. They were also massive fans of day trips, which meant lots of hours in the car. And we would just put on lots of country music. And I remember Jolene. And the reason why I remember Jolene is because it's such a lyrically vivid song that to the imagination of a child it is so easy to paint pictures of. So I had like these vivid storylines going along with that song, and the reason why I love it so much is that somehow that song is so good it was able to teach a very, very young me what heartache was, and that is mind-boggling, and that is just the power of music itself. Now, speaking of the power of music, let's talk about the power of video games, and the next song is White Wedding by Billy Idol. Now, as a kid, video games were a big part of my life, and specifically Grand Theft Auto. Now, to anyone who's never played the games, you may not know about the game's radio stations. So, every time you get into a vehicle or car or whatever, you have a new radio station and you can switch between them. So, on K-Dust Radio is where I discovered the wonders of Billy Idol. So, in real life, I'm a pretty law-abiding citizen, but in this game, not so much. So, this song reminds me of little Janet breaking all the rules and listening to this amazing 80s hit. As adult Janet, I never would have imagined Billy even seeing this, let alone retweeting it on Twitter, especially my little creepy version of it. So shout out to Billy for making me scream like a little fangirl. Now, speaking of fangirling, one of the first bands I ever did that over were Linkin Park. Now, I was only 8 years old when this song came out, but I'll admit I've always been a pretty emotional person. I think we've all gathered that. And one of the songs I emotionally connected to a lot with was Numb. I just was fixated on how someone I'd never met before seemed to have written a song about me and my life and how I was feeling. And, I carried it well into my teenage years after experiences of bullying and things. This was always my go-to song, but it all sounds really sad, but what I'm trying to say is it's really powerful and important that I had a song to connect to, and I automatically felt less isolated and on my own with this song. So next up on this playlist is Behind Blue Eyes by The Who. And this one came about because my guitar teacher just tutted at me so hard one day because of my lack of knowledge with classic rock. To him, The Who were an obvious recommendation that I really had to check out. I did, and it's easy to say I never looked back. I had the privilege of actually seeing The Who play live in Hyde Park a couple of years ago in London, and I was blown away. This song held as much energy live as it did on the record. And their songs hold such happy memories for me because it was this period of musical discovery for me, and I was testing out the water on what I liked musically and what instruments I wanted to pursue learning. Now, this one was filmed very differently, and the whole process of this one came about very differently because if you actually watch the video, I'm not in my studio. I'm actually in A&B Studios in London, and the reason for that was I was doing strings for my EP Little Lights, and I just so happened to have some time left over. And I had all the cameras set up anyway because I was documenting the recording process for that. So this one is a little bit fancier. So I just went with it. Just had the backing track, just jumped in, set up shot, and went for it. It was a really spur of the moment thing, and I'm really glad that I did it because it shows that when you got fancy studios, you can do something a little bit more interesting. So last up is Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper. And this was the first music videos of Cyndi's that I'd ever seen. I think she was the first woman I'd ever seen as well who was very bonkers and very eccentric with, the big bright orange hair and the colourful makeup and the outrageous clothes. And if I'm being honest, it actually intimidated little young me. This video, though, sadly, it was a pretty quick turnaround. I had a deadline to get it done as quickly as possible, which meant I couldn't really go in and add those little sprinkles of production fairy dust. So I was delighted when I could go in and record the BVs for it and add those little elements that give it a little extra something that is different from the video itself. This song I love because of its raw emotion and colourful lyrics, and it does inspire me to want to be a better writer myself. So I think that is enough of me waffling on and on about these, but I hope you've enjoyed getting that little bit of insight with the songs and why I've chosen them and the making of them all. And I hope you enjoy listening to these creepy little versions that I've made. And I hope you have a happy day as well. So, bye.